questions regarding the heritage and their importance. Your first question was how can local community benefit from the heritage? So it is not only the local community benefiting from the heritage, it is heritage also benefits from the local community. It is a sort of a symbiotic relations, the mutual benefits. But coming to your specific question of how the community can benefit in the present times, you have the oft repeated, frequently mentioned benefits of the economic benefits derived due to the tourism is well known. No doubt tourism helps in economic benefits, provided it is properly guided and provided the local people who are living in the World Heritage Site are benefited from that. But more than economic benefits, the heritage creates a sense of ownership among the community which lives in that, and also a sense of pride and sense of identification. And it also creates a social and cultural inclusiveness, and it is a heritage also offers them to have a lifelong education with them, and heritage helps them to revive and bring back to the head stage the forgotten skills, forgotten traditional crafts, forgotten performing arts, provided there is a support for that. So heritage offers variety of opportunities in the local community. And coming to the question that today we are living in a separate world. Previously, when these heritage resources were created by our ancestors, they were a part of that life, their whole economy, everything. But today, when we practice different economy, most of these heritage structures, heritage has no bearing on our today's life. So your question is, under such circumstances, what relevance this heritage, the built heritage, has on the lives of the people? Just because that our way of life, our economic way of life is little diverse from the existing heritage, does not mean that heritage has ceased to be relevant in our life. In fact, more than ever, it is more relevant for the reason we are seeing such a modernization in all aspects of life today. There is a globalization going on a rapid scale, and there is a change. The rate of change we are experiencing with such a rapidity that we are almost off the feet. It is in this circumstance heritage is relevant. How it is relevant? It is in such cases it provides a sense of belonging, because we have a sense of belonging, and it also provides a sense of security in the modern times. And in such turbulent times, it acts as an anchor. It acts as an anchor in our things. Besides, it also defines our identity, and it also greatly helps you to properly understand the problems of the present and also problems of the future. One can learn lessons from them and also have other things. Your next major question is that pertains to how does a place get considered as a World Heritage Site? You wanted to know how a site becomes World Heritage Sites. So you must have heard the operational guidelines. World Heritage Center publishes every now and then updates operational guidelines which give details of how a site can become World Heritage Site. The first requirement is that a tentative list of the probable sites, potential sites have been prepared by each country. India has about more than 45 sites on the tentative list. Out of this tentative list, you have to submit nomination dossiers for the World Heritage Site. So the first condition is the tentative list. Out of tentative list, you select those monuments and submit it to. The next step is the preparation of the nomination dossier. What are the important criteria for passing this World Heritage test is that the property which you propose for a World Heritage Site should pass the test of outstanding universal value. It's a very complicated, very broad-based statement. It should meet the standards of outstanding universal value. It should meet the conditions of authenticity and integrity. And it should have a protective legal structure. It should have a management structure. Unless these conditions are fulfilled, it cannot become eligible to a World Heritage site. And how this outstanding universal value is assessed or is through the list of criteria. Or operational guidelines give a list of criteria. There are about 10 criteria. 6 criteria belong to the cultural properties. 4 criteria belong to the natural sites. So the World Heritage, you can put a property in a cultural site category. In cultural category, there are different. Either you put it as a monument or a group of monument or a site or a historic city or a historic canal, or you can put a natural site under the natural condition. There are some sites known as cultural landscapes like Hampi. There are some sites which come both under natural landscape, cultural landscape as well as cultural landscape. They are known as mixed sites. Even there are different categories of nomination dossier. There is one category which we should know is a serial nomination. What is serial nomination? A property of a similar outstanding value may be in different states of a single party, or property with the same outstanding value may be in the different countries. So so instead of proposing from one country, same property is doing in other countries. This is known as transboundary serial nomination. So once you prepare nomination dossier, you submit it to the World Heritage Committee. If everything is okay with the nomination dossier, the World Heritage Committee will send your dossier to the advisory committee. In case of cultural properties, advisory committee will be ICOMOS. In case of natural properties, IUCN is the agency. Once ICOMOS will examine your dossier, come to your site, see the on-site conditions, it will make its recommendation or evaluation. And if everything is okay in that, it will be submitted to the World Heritage Committee. The World Heritage Committee meets every year in the month of June, takes into account the evaluation report of the ICOMOS. If everything is okay, it will say, okay, your site is good, it is now declared as World Heritage Site. If something is desired additional information, either it may defer, or either it may refer, or either it may reject. So there are 4 possibilities of these things. So once the site is inscribed, it becomes a World Heritage Site. Then the state party is bound to follow all the norms and guidelines of a World Heritage Site. But once it becomes a World Heritage Site, please don't think that it will ever remain on that list unless you follow those rules and regulation guidelines. The crux of the World Heritage Site management is to protect outstanding universal value, enhance that universal value, and transmit it in the same condition to the future generation. If any, during the course of its life management, if this property suffers damage to this outstanding universal value, then World Heritage Committee will take drastic action of putting it in World Heritage Site in danger. And it will give opportunity to the state parties to correct that mistake, mitigate that danger, so that it can revert back. Suppose the state party does not do that, it fails to address that problem, the World Heritage Committee go to the extent of removing the site from the World Heritage list. So this is the process of getting the World Heritage Site. I think your last questions is that pertaining to the other than World Heritage Site, is it important to conserve the other heritage sites? As you are aware, the concept of World Heritage came only in 1970s. That doesn't mean that only after the 1970s the whole cultural heritage in India was protected or conserved. And in a country like India, which was under colonial power, the protection of the monuments and conservation goes back to 1904, when the first act was enacted. Like that, in every country, the certain monuments were already declared protected, conserved. It's out of these only some few monuments were selected for a World Heritage Site. Therefore, it becomes imperative and compulsory to protect, conserve our non-World Heritage sites also. Just getting a World Heritage Site does not mean that other sites are of lesser importance. They're all equally important because we are representing through some samples of them as a World Heritage Sites. The rest of them are also equally important from international point of view, national, local, cultural heritage point of view. Therefore, one has to protect and conserve them. Your last question pertains to how then we should conserve these things, other than World Heritage Sites. As I told you, in India, in Indian context, the Indian Constitution makes it obligatory the management, protection, conserving, management of heritage, responsibility of both central government, state government, and combined. So there is a state list, there is a central list, there is a combined list. Therefore, in India, the monuments are protected at central level, known as national monuments. Monuments protected at state level as well, state protected monuments. Apart from that, at city level also, nowadays, the monuments are being protected by city level corporations. Most of these city level heritages belongs to the colonial period, which were erected during the last 150 years. Because this colonial period buildings were never included in the early 1904 AD Act, because at that time they were being erected. The main consideration for Indian Act to declare a monument as a heritage monument is it must meet the condition of 100 years, and it must have archaeological, historical, economical, social, architectural value of national importance or state importance. Now, in spite of this work being done by the different governments of India, is this protection, conservation adequate for the size of the country? It's not at all adequate. If you take the statistics, the number of monuments protected by all these government agencies are minuscule. Not even 1% of the total heritage. Lakhs of monuments are there in India, in every state. Who is going to protect them? Are we going to create government departments for each and every monument? Are we going to enact new and new laws? No. We have to find the recourse to the existing laws, because now heritage is being interpreted as more than a group of buildings include its environment. There are plethora of acts. For example, there is the Environment Act, which protects the environment, but heritage is also a part of environment. Under that Environment Act, you can always include the heritage monuments for protection. It affords an additional layer. Like that, Indian Forest Act, which was meant to protect the forest area, many of the prehistoric sites, monuments are in this forest area. So take use of that act and protect them under that. Like that, the Coastal Zone Regulations Act. There are so many other existing acts in which the monuments, which become also part of the act, can also be protected. In spite of that, there are still monuments which are at village level. It is here that which we discussed at the beginning, the involvement of the community at the village level, panchayat level, involvement of the people in maintaining the community assets of heritage should be tried under the panchayat. Right now, panchayat has at a village level proposes so much development like schools, infrastructure, other things. But heritage, unfortunately, has not yet formed a part of this development proposal. If you focus on that, we can address this vast heritage at different levels, which will also save it for future. Thank you, Mehta, for your questions. And next question.